The new Call of Duty Black Ops 7 just had its main reveal at Gamescom opening night live, and it looks bad. Like, really bad. Now, disclaimers, I haven't played it. I wasn't one of the creators invited out to Los Angeles. These are all personal opinions. It looks bad to me, and compared to what I would like from a Call of Duty game, it's really good if you liked it and you're excited. Don't let me take away from that. The hype is usually the most fun part of any game's campaign. I'm just not feeling any hype right now, and I'm actually a little bit annoyed about the direction they're taking Call of Duty, and I'll talk more about that at the end of the video. So, a ton of Call of Duty Black Ops 7 info just launched. I'm not going to go through all of it piece by piece in this video, but the way they've released it is bizarre. I thought, and this was probably my mistake, that we were getting the multiplayer trailer today, but instead we got more of a campaign and zombies trailer, then a bunch of blog posts and tweets from the official Call of Duty accounts, which you'd probably miss if you didn't see their first tweet on Twitter. I actually had to go back through a bunch of their tweets just to find that blog post again. And then there's been tons of other snippets of information from that group of creators that were flown out to Los Angeles. They all had like a special long briefing on the game and a chance to play zombies and multiplayer as far as I know. And on that note, the creators have apparently been told they can't share gameplay impressions yet, so they can't tell us whether they thought it was really good or it was really bad. You could read into that a bit. Like, why wouldn't they want them to talk about the game if they all thought it was really good? But I'm pretty sure I have been told something like that before about a game I actually thought was good when I played it, and then they said, oh, you can't talk about what you thought about the gameplay yet. So maybe it's just because the build was too early or something like that. I wouldn't read too much into it right now. But the way they released the information was weird. Why do we, as sort of Call of Duty fans, need to go to 5 different sources to find out what's happening with the new game? I didn't really get a sense from the trailers or the blog posts what exactly is the focus of this new game either. There's just broken little fragments everywhere, like, oh, there's a tweet that says there's no doors now in the game, and there's a replayable endgame for the co-op campaign, and there's a truck you can drive and zombies. It just felt absolutely all over the place. The messaging was odd. But let's get back to my thoughts on it. Let's start with the positives. What did I like about these announcements? First of all, you can now copy weapon codes for builds for guns. So if there's like a meta version of a weapon, you can just copy down a code from someone else that has made that weapon, and then when you put the code in, assuming you've got all of the attachments unlocked, it will just make that blueprint for you in your game. And on your friends list, you can just press a button, share it. They said, oh, you just press one button, share it with your friends. But that's clearly not true. Like, you're going to press a button to share, and then surely you're going to press a button to be like, which friends you want to use, maybe even which friends list you want to use, and then another button said, I don't believe them that it's one button. But anyway, I hate the gunsmith, and now they're making it so you can engage with it even less. Seems odd to me that they've spent years building up hundreds of attachments and hundreds of different weapons, and now they're saying, hey, by the way, you know that really complicated gunsmith system we've made? You can just skip all of that. But we all know most of us just copy a build from a creator or a website, and then when our friends come online who don't follow all of that Call of Duty stuff, we just tell them what they should put on their guns. And it takes an annoyingly long time. You know, you spend a long time at the beginning being like, oh yeah, you want this barrel, you want this foregrip, you want this scope. No, not that scope, it's this one that sounds a tiny bit different. It's just irritating. Now you can just copy a code from, you know, a video from a website, and it will make the blueprint for you. And then you can just share that with your friends, supposedly with one button. You can let JGod work out how the 86 foregrip for the 19th version of the AK-47 works, and if it's any good, you can just copy his code and ignore all of that. Another thing I like is that they're trying another large-scale multiplayer mode, Skirmish, where apparently players will have wingsuits and vehicles and stuff. I'm sure I read somewhere that people will have grappling hooks in this, but I can't seem to find that again. But anyway, they did this before with fire teams in Black Ops Cold War, and to be honest, the community mostly ignored it, but I really appreciated them trying new things. There was even a sort of battle royale type thing in fire teams that I thought was really fun, but we only had it for like a couple of weeks, which was a real shame. But I like them trying new things. It's fun to have new experiences in Call of Duty, so I'm glad they're trying that again, even if there's only going to be 2 maps for it at launch, which makes me think people will get bored of it really quickly. Then they'll look at the statistics from it and say, oh, well, people aren't playing this very much, and then they won't support it anymore, like they always do with Call of Duty. Another thing that I like is that they're getting rid of tactical sprint. Kind of. I think it maybe is a perk now, but more on that later, and the perks and how weird they are. I always thought that tactical sprint was just unnecessary in the game. It kind of overcomplicated it a bit. I never knew when I was meant to be using it and when I shouldn't be using it. Should I have it on auto sprint or not? I didn't really know. It never really felt like it made the game better at all, so I'll be glad if that's gone. But that's kind of it for the positives, and that's really sad because all of those are kind of double-edged swords a little bit. So let's get on to the things that I'm not so happy about. First of all, let's look at zombies. They've confirmed that all of your gobblegums are carrying over from Black Ops 6 to Black Ops 7. And I think there's a lot of people who are like, hooray, I spent ages getting loads of gobblegums, or God forbid you paid for gobblegums. I think all of the gobblegums carrying over into Black Ops 7 is actually more of a bad sign than a lot of people realise. If every gobblegum can be carried forwards, that means every system that can be affected by a gobblegum, which is basically everything, power-ups, armor, rounds, exfil, field upgrades, weapons, all of that stuff works the same way it does in Black Ops 6. Otherwise the gobblegums wouldn't work and they wouldn't be able to carry forward. So that makes me think Black Ops 7 will just feel like extra maps for Black Ops 6. Note in the gobblegum section, it doesn't say something like, oh, most of the gobblegums will carry over with a few exceptions, like it does for the carry forward stuff for blueprints and weapons and things like that. It says every gobblegum. So I really think Black Ops 7 is just more maps for Black Ops 6 zombies. Now, don't get me wrong, Black Ops 6 was fine as a zombies game. I played through all of the maps day one. Like, I played with Mr. Dalek JD. It was super nice of him to let me play along with him. And I enjoyed most of the maps. Some of them were pretty cool. Like, I really enjoyed Terminus and Citadel. I thought they were interesting maps. And I even enjoyed Liberty Falls. I thought that was kind of interesting. But I'm not super excited for just another year of basically the same game. I'm already kind of fed up of Black Ops 6 Zombies. With the last couple of maps, I just played them to do the Easter egg and make the guide, and then I didn't touch them again. They've also confirmed that all of the new maps this year will be set in the Dark Ether. While I think the use of the Dark Ether the first time in Die Machine, back in Black Ops Cold War, was really cool, where we would just randomly go in there and it was like a twisted version of the main map, I thought that was cool. But normally I just prefer the more grounded zombies maps set in more familiar locations. That's always been like a fun thing in any sort of zombies media for me, is, oh, you see these sort of very ordinary places that have been turned into hostile environments by zombies. I really enjoyed the setting of Liberty Falls, as I said, which, by the way, creators were told at the event that apparently Liberty Falls was the most played zombies map in Call of Duty history. So I would fully expect a lot more of that kind of map in future in terms of size and, an underwhelming Easter egg. There's not even a boss for that one. But anyway, every map being in a Dark Ether means we're just going to get constant floaty mushrooms everywhere. Everything's going to look purple, doesn't it? Maybe they'll be creative and surprise me. Who knows? Another announcement they made was that the new map, which creators have described as being very big, it sounds a lot like Transit with I think Dalek said in a tweet that there's 6 points of interest separated by different transition paths. They've said that map is the only map at launch. It doesn't sound like we're getting overwhelmed with content for zombies, and I haven't heard anything about something like Outbreak returning. I think they would have been talking about that now. So it really does seem like, yep, we're getting this one map, and I guess every season maybe we'll get another map. Maybe we'll get 6 maps this year, or maybe we'll just get 4. I don't know. But that doesn't sound too exciting. They have said, oh, we're bringing survival mode back, which is just where they take a small part of a map and then you fight off never-ending waves of zombies. Like they did that starting room one on Black Ops 6 a little while ago. I think it's just that, basically, but in different rooms on the new map. Again, it's a theme that you'll see as I go through the rest of this video, that a lot of the stuff in Black Ops 7 is like the absolute least effort possible into making content that you can just spend time in. It's not interesting content, it's not new content, it's just something that could take up your time. Remember when in Black Ops 4 we had like a bunch of maps at launch? I feel like we had like 4 maps at launch in Black Ops 4, and all of them were like super interesting and like very varied, very different to each other. I really don't think we're getting anything like that in Black Ops 7. Instead, we've got the return of Dead Ops Arcade. I can't stand Dead Ops Arcade. I think it's terrible. I don't care that they've included it at all. I know there are some people that like it. There's definitely at least dozens of them, but it doesn't do anything for me at all. I'm not going to get into the zombie story and everything like that. I've said many times I think the zombie story is terrible. It's a badly written story that they've just been making up as they go along and constantly retconning stuff to make it work. I don't care that they brought back the 4 protagonists from the previous maps and that they're back in it again now. I think that's maybe the least creative or interesting thing they could have possibly done. But anyway, let's leave zombies behind and move on to the campaign. Now, to me, the campaign sounds like we're getting a collection of dream sequence maps, which I never like in any games, and I thought they were terrible in the last one, in Black Ops 6. You know, all those maps towards the end where you're like fighting loads of clones. I thought that was rubbish. And those are coupled with some kind of open maps that are set in Avalon, which sound like the open world maps from Modern Warfare 3. And those were terrible. Like, those were maybe the worst thing that's ever been in a Call of Duty campaign. They felt so empty and lifeless. Also, apparently the campaign doesn't have any difficulty settings anymore, so no more tuning it down a little bit if, you know, maybe there's someone who just wants to experience a story who's not so good at first-person shooters, or I sometimes turn a difficulty down when I'm trying to get some footage for a video or something like that. Can't do that anymore. And you can't turn it up. I know lots of people that like to play on hardened or veteran straight away because the normal difficulty is just too easy. You can't do that at all. Instead, it's just going to scale with the number of players, kind of like how Zombies does, I guess. So if you're going in solo, it's probably going to be too easy for most of the people that are watching this video, and then it'll just get harder when you're playing with more people. Speaking of the co-op, the whole campaign can be played with 4 players. In my experience, the problem with co-op campaigns is that playing as 4 people, you don't pay any attention to the story because you're messing around and joking with your friends, and then other people will sometimes like do an objective before you catch up, or you'll miss like set pieces because you were looking the wrong way or something. When you're playing by yourself, when you're in a solo game, the game can force you into certain things and make it more cinematic. But if it's made for co-op, if it's made for 4 players, when you're playing by yourself, it'll probably feel hollow because everything will be designed for 4 players. It changes like subtle things about the level design, like corridors will need to be bigger and emptier than they are in real life because they don't want it to get too crowded. I feel like this is going to eliminate the sort of cinematic feel, which to me has been the only good thing Call of Duty campaigns have ever had going for them, that they feel like you're in an action movie, and I just don't think that's going to be the case. And then there's the Endgame that they've talked a little bit about. Apparently it's a replayable semi-extraction shooter that's a separate mode, but it's at the end of the campaign, and I've seen it described online as being from 1 to 32 players, whatever that means. I wouldn't get your hopes up for some kind of DMZ style experience, although apparently you do take weapons and abilities in and you like level up your operator, but if your whole squad dies, then you get reset to level 1, you have to start again. But other than that element of being able to lose everything, there's no PvP, and it sounds like instead of being like a grounded military game, it's going to have superpowers, you can teleport, you can get super jumps. To me, that sounds bad. Like, that doesn't sound fun. And the footage they showed at the Gamescom reveal looked awful to me. Like, it looked weirdly empty and soulless. Like, they were just walking around a kind of empty map, occasionally shooting a couple of enemies. That was a bit like what the experience was like on DMZ when you were on a map after you'd taken out all of the other players, or all the other players had exfilled, or you're playing on MWZ in the early areas where there's not that many zombies, and you're just kind of wandering around a completely empty map. It felt odd, and that's what this mode looked like to me. And all of that's happening on the Avalon map, which we previously thought was being built for Warzone, but will apparently be used for this Endgame mode, with the whole map being open for Endgame. I'm not sure if that means maybe we're never getting it for Warzone. As a sign of just how connected the development of Black Ops 6 and 7 is, you can actually already fly around the Black Ops 7 version of Avalon using the Codcaster in Black Ops 6 multiplayer. That's what I'm doing here. even the locations that were specifically shown in the Black Ops 7 trailer. But with Black Ops 7, you get to buy a whole new game to play on the things that were made for the Black Ops 6 that you already own. It's a bit weird, isn't it? And finally, let's talk about multiplayer. We're getting a bunch of new maps. That is good. It's always good when we get new maps. I was worried they'd pull a Modern Warfare 3 and just use all the maps from like Black Ops 1 or 2 or something. But to be honest, even as a Call of Duty fan, I haven't even played all of the DLC maps from Black Ops 6 yet. Like, I get excited when there's a new Call of Duty multiplayer, but I don't tend to play it for much more than a month. Like, that's enough before I just get burnt out again and move on to the next thing. As I said in the positive section, we are getting a new mode, Skirmish, but everything else that's new to multiplayer just seems to be kind of overcomplicating things we already had. Like they've said, oh, we've got the new level of Omni movement. Now you can jump off walls and like bounce off walls. That's definitely going to lead to loads of people getting out of the map somehow. But anyway, is that something that people are excited for? Are people really excited about the idea that you can jump and kick off a wall to get somewhere higher? Like, I don't know, to me that's not something that I would look at and be like, yeah, that's going to be really cool. Lots of the movement has been cut back, like there's no tactical sprint and no ADSing while you're sliding or diving, and I think no ADSing while sliding could be quite a big change. But you can bring it back using a perk, which makes me think they'll probably just make those into essential perks for anyone who was like good at Black Ops 6, who got used to playing that way. They'll just have less perks to choose from because they'll be like, oh, we want to be able to ADS when we're sliding, obviously. So that seems a bit silly. And now the perks themselves are even more complicated. They've added something called hybrid perks. And even the person who wrote the blog post doesn't seem to know what that means, because they wrote this insanely short paragraph about it. This is the entire section that I'm about to read to you, and it doesn't make any sense to me. They said, experiment with your perk builds like never before with the all-new hybrid combat specialities. To activate a hybrid bonus, you're able to mix and match perks from 2 different combat specialties, colors. Get ready to try out different combinations to find your favorites, whether you're a stealthy slayer or an offensive support player. If you know what that means, please let me know in the comments, because I've got a degree in English and that did not help. And on top of all this, in multiplayer, now you can level up and prestige everything. Guns, score streaks, field upgrades, throwables. They gave some examples of the kind of leveling up some of those stuff, like the throwables. Like the cluster grenade. They said, oh, if you level it up, you get an overdrive ability that adds an extra grenade, like an extra little bang, I guess, to the cluster grenade. So instead of 4, it'll be 5 now. That's just a straight damage upgrade. So if you get your friend to play Black Ops 7 a few months down the line, their gear, like their cluster grenades, won't be as good as the people they're up against. And when they ask why that is, you'll have to explain to them, oh, well, you have to use the bad version of it in a few games against people who are using the good version of it. You have to use the bad version for a while, and then the game will let you use the proper version of it. And this system applies to score streaks too. You just have worse versions at first, and then use them a bunch, and eventually you'll unlock the good versions of them. Has anyone ever been playing Call of Duty and thought, you know what my favourite thing is about it? How you have to use the bad versions of guns for hours before you can unlock the attachments that everyone else is using that make the guns good. Well, good news to those people that love that, because now that just seems to apply to absolutely everything. And now you get to level up the weapons themselves twice, because you have to in order to unlock what they describe as a build-changing aftermarket part for every single weapon. And you only get that by prestiging the weapon, which relocks all of the attachments. So imagine if one of these new aftermarket parts that they have said are build-changing, so they're going to be powerful. Imagine if one of those is meta, like the new meta weapon is some assault rifle, and you need to use an attachment that you get at like level 50 with that gun, and you need that aftermarket part. And then your friend, who hasn't played it in the first few months, but is just coming into the game, wants to use the same weapon you're using. You're going to have to tell them, oh yeah, all you have to do is level up the bad version of that gun all the way to max level, then prestige it, then level up the gun all the way again, and then you can use this code I'm giving you to make the same gun I'm using. That's absolute madness. That will take them hours and hours, and any sensible person just isn't going to bother. And this really comes down to the sort of crux of why I'm annoyed about this Call of Duty. And we're getting towards the conclusion of the video. And this video is way longer than I expected. It's already at like 20 minutes. My God. This game seems to be purely designed around making you play as much as possible. And that might sound silly because obviously all games want you to play as much as possible. But I made a video recently about Destiny 2 and how they seem to have just made that game into a very obvious treadmill. They've taken away all of the sort of bit that was pretending to be something else. They've taken away the mystery and the story and the exploration. And they've just said, hey, go in and repeat this activity over and over and over again. Otherwise, you're going to fall behind. And it seems like Call of Duty have followed Destiny's lead. They've turned the whole game into a treadmill, ignoring what might make the game fun or approachable for new players or an interesting experience or memorable. And instead, they're just saying, hey, we're going to give you loads of stuff that's going to take a very long time to do, as if that's content. You know, as if that's something we should be excited about. Let's end this video talking about the weapon camo grinds. There's now 16 mastery camo grinds in this game. 16. For each weapon, there's going to be 16 mastery camos. There's camo grinds for multiplayer, for zombies, for Warzone, and now even for the campaign. So that's right, you'll be able to grind out camos by playing the campaign, and I assume spending hours and hours grinding out missions in the endgame for every single gun. But that's not all. It's not just the 16 mastery camos. To get some camos, you need to not only prestige every gun, that means getting them up to max level and then pressing prestige, which locks all of the achievements again, which, and anyone who's done the camo grind in Call of Duty knows, leveling up the guns is probably the thing that takes the longest. But anyway, you have to do all of that. Then you have to prestige them. Then you have to level them up again to max level. Then you have to prestige them again, locking all of the attachments again. Then you have to level them up a third time, but this time it goes up to level 250. So if you want all of the weapon camos, have fun leveling up every gun in the game twice and then leveling them each up to level 250. That's not exciting new content. That's not going to be a memorable adventure for anyone. It's not going to be like a good use of time. It's not going to be an experience they're going to look back on and be like, remember Black Ops 7 when I got to use that gun that I hated for hours and hours and hours to make it look slightly different. It's just Activision letting you know that they do not care about your time at all. They just want you to keep playing Call of Duty to chase after some meaningless pattern on pretend guns. If you've seen some of the rubbish they've sold in the store over the last few years, do you really think any of these camos are going to be worth it? Do you really think they're going to be worth hours and hours of your time? Of course, I could be wrong about all of this. Maybe the movement changes and the new multiplayer maps will make Call of Duty multiplayer feel fresh again. Maybe the campaign will be well written and give us all a truly memorable experience that we can share with our friends in co-op. Maybe Endgame will be my new favourite way to play Call of Duty. Maybe zombies will do something we've never seen before and finally start taking the story in an interesting direction, with challenging but rewarding main quests that keep the community engaged. But I don't think they will. Right now, I think it'll be crap.